So we'll move on to our main story now, and this is about Alpha Nero. Now, as you all know, Alpha Nero is going through this situation in Antigua right now where it was abandoned, or it's seemingly abandoned. The government seized the vessel and tried to sell it, and then they lobbied the US to remove the sanctions on it. And once the sanctions were removed by the US, then somebody popped up and said, hey, that's my yacht. I just left the keys in my other trousers. We've had an update from the court of Antigua. A lawyer representing Yulia Guryev Motlokov, who is the daughter of Andrei Guryev Sr., apologies. She has hired a lawyer in Antigua to appeal against the seizure of the vessel. Now, her lawyer says that her client says that the vessel was never abandoned and that the government of Antigua knew who the owner was all along. So the statement released by the lawyer on behalf of the client reads as follows. The ownership of the vessel was known by the government prior to the seizure and auction and was never abandoned. We are seeking to return the vessel to its rightful and lawful owner through the proper process and legal means. This hearing is a step in the process to stop the sale of Alpha Nero by the government, which has no right of ownership. Obviously, they tried to sell that vessel, and that's what that's referenced to. Now, what he is referring to there is a court hearing that was had to appeal the decision by a previous court that blocked the Ms. Motlokov from taking ownership of the vessel or re-establishing ownership of the vessel. This second hearing was heard on the 22nd of September, and the judge has not made the decision yet. So they're saying that the vessel was never abandoned. Now, let's look into that. The yacht was left in Antigua. It was left there over a year. Andrei Guryev Sr. said the yacht wasn't his, right? So we contacted lawyers in the UK who represent Mr. Guryev Sr. And they said, and they released the statements at the time, which basically said, I'll put it on the screen, but basically said that Mr. Guryev does not own Alpha Nero, nor does he own Yacht Luminosity, which is another yacht which he allegedly owns, which is in Tivat in Montenegro, in a sort of similar situation as the one in Alpha Nero. Hasn't been seized by the government though. Now, remember at this time, the yacht in Antigua, Alpha Nero, was blocked by the US government and it couldn't be moved, right? Now, the bills haven't been paid. There's over $500,000, at least that we know of unpaid bills. There's a lawsuit currently for former members of the crew of Alpha Nero claiming $2.1 million in unpaid salaries. There was also the crew that were on board. There was 5 or 6 crew left on board. They were about to leave the vessel because they said they hadn't been paid for a year. To be honest, I find that unlikely because nobody's going to stay for a year on a boat without being paid, but that's what they said. They hadn't been paid for a year. Now, this sounds like a yacht that's been abandoned, right? Now, the government, then they said that they were proposing to seize this vessel. They posted articles in newspapers around the world saying that this is what's going to happen if nobody claims the vessel in the next 10 days. We contacted the lawyers representing Andrei Guryev Sr. At no point did he say to us, it's not my yacht, but it's my daughter's yacht. Now, that was never said. Now, if I contacted you to say, is this your car? No, it's my daughter's car. That's the first thing you would say. You wouldn't say, no, it's not my car. He said Mr. Guryev Sr. said he chartered the vessel from time to time in the past, but he never owned it. Now, if he chartered that boat from his daughter, like who does that? But if he did, then he would say, it's my daughter's yacht, right? Which he never did. So this is all sounding like that vessel has been abandoned, right? Now, as I said, the vessel is still blocked by the US government. It's seized property by the US government. Once the Antiguan government had seized the vessel, they reflagged the vessel, and then they lobbied the US to remove those sanctions. Now, at the time, I said that it would be better for them to sell that vessel under a license from the US before the sanctions were lifted. I think that's what they should have done. That's because this counterclaim probably wouldn't have been made. But at some point when those sanctions were lifted, this would no doubt have been applied to whoever bought that vessel. So like I said, the sanctions were eventually lifted by the US government to free the vessel for sale by the government of Antigua. And then this claim came that the yacht was in fact owned by Mrs. Guryev Motlokov, who is the daughter of Andrei Guryev Sr. She is not currently under any sanctions. She's based in the UK as well. She lives in the UK with her husband. So she's now come forward and said, I am the owner. The way they've explained the ownership is that the vessel is in the trust, which is very common with these vessels. They place it in the trust, a private trust, which is operated by a company in Guernsey called Opus Private. We've contacted Opus Private on many occasions and they've refused to answer any of our emails. Because the trust is private, the names of who's on that trust, the beneficiaries of the trust, is unknown to anybody outside that company. And they're saying that Ms. Motlakov is the sole beneficiary of that trust, making her the owner of the vessel. However, it'd be very easy to remove names of a private trust that nobody knows, right? If they did remove Mr. Guryev Sr.'s name after he was sanctioned, then that's illegal. So it is a bit of a web, isn't it? It's going to be a long process, I would think, before a decision is made. I can only imagine that the US government is not going to want that vessel to leave Antigua and be returned to the owner. As far as who actually owns the vessel, former crew who've worked on that boat, who we've spoken to, who wish to remain anonymous, have told us that the owner is Andrei Guryev Sr. The owner, the nickname for the owner on board amongst the crew, Mr. G. Nobody has ever referenced the daughter as being the owner of that vessel. Of course, we can't confirm any of that. We're just reporting what people have told us. Anyway, we will keep you updated on this story. Stay tuned for further updates. Hi, thanks very much for watching this video. You've been watching a Superyacht News clip. If you'd like to see the full unedited Superyacht News video, you can click on the link over here. You can also find our channel links below here. And if you'd like to see more shorter videos like this one, be sure to subscribe to this channel.